Thanks for joining us here on YNN this evening. I'm Heidi Zhou-Castro. Everything is supposed to be bigger in Texas. That is, unless it's the world's smallest Catholic church. This should be a familiar scene. The city has suffered a tremendous loss of trees.
And I know these troopers back here are very excited because we promised. We promised them.
The lure of science and math is helping to get hundreds of students back into the classroom a little bit early.
Out of sight, out of mind, right? Not exactly.
Romney actually didn't campaign in Texas heading up to this primary. He didn't even set foot in the Lone Star State.
The driver drove into one of the officers, knocking him down, then proceeded to hit this Pathfinder. But if you move a few feet over to the sidewalk, there's still a gap.
Have you ever wanted to go on a safari but don't quite have the budget to make it to Africa? Little Ariana, she's going to be celebrating her quinceañera, which is typically when you turn 15. And our own Jess Densland saw that Silverstone road traffic firsthand. He joins us from Austin Executive Airport.
When all else failed. Oh my God! There's always the pool.
Austin firefighters returned to an East Austin neighborhood Thursday, the scene of a deadly fire that took the life of an elderly woman. The blaze on Chico Street was one of two house fires that erupted Tuesday. The other one was across town and it killed two boys. Besides the loss of life, the two fires shared another similarity. Neither homes had working fire alarms. We look into the lessons the community is learning. Julius Rodriguez arrived home Tuesday morning to find his house burning and his grandmother missing.
They're like, well, we have everybody out, we're trying to put out the fire. I was like, well, you're still missing one person because there's not only four, there's five.
95-year-old Josefina Rodriguez was the one left behind. Her grandson says she was paralyzed and battling cancer. It wasn't until later that firefighters found her body tucked away and hidden under debris.
It took them about another hour and a half, and then they were like, yeah, she's in there, she's deceased. So I was like, well, what more could we do?
Now, nothing. But firefighters say a smoke detector and an escape route might have made the difference. That's why they're taking action against future fires in this neighborhood before any new flames erupt. Armed with batteries rather than hoses, teams move from house to house, testing alarms.
See how that beeps? Yeah. That means it works.
And installing new ones.
Bye.
Battalion Chief Palmer Buck says this is the first step to saving lives.
Make sure that this neighborhood, who now sees the devastation that a fire can cause, we want to get into their homes, we want to talk to them about fire safety, we want to make sure that they're protected, unlike their neighbors.
Rodriguez says he wishes he had worked harder to protect his grandmother, but now he can only honor her memory.
Being 95, I think she saw the world and another one, so she's probably in a better place now. It's a lot easier for her. She can take it easy.
He says he hopes lessons learned from her tragic death will prevent others. 3 other family members who lived with Julius Rodriguez remain hospitalized. His father did make it out safely. This is what locals call almost America, a place where cotton blossoms part for patrol trucks, where metal splits the horizon, where Jim Ed Miller calls home.
This is our border fence. The only thing I have to say about that, I thought fences had to be contiguous.
Miller says not a week goes by without someone skirting the fence to cross illegally into his farm. Over at the same diner where he watched the Twin Towers fall 10 years ago, Miller says he's worried.
It's like, let them in, let's see if we can catch them.
This video is from a neighbor's surveillance camera. Miller says the problem is he doesn't know whether the people coming over are illegal immigrants, drug smugglers, or terrorists. Others in this town of 1,700 share the uncertainty. You'll find at least 10 guns in the diner's parking lot. The school district superintendent carries 3.
This is a 40 millimeter.
And why do you carry that?
For personal protection.
Folks here say things just aren't the same as the pre-9/11, pre-drug war days. Days when snow cones would lure an 8-year-old Gail Carr to the other side.
I had no fear whatsoever. On a banana-seated bicycle. Now the burning ranches and gunfights keep him far away.
We didn't have the worries that we do now.
If you ask the government, though, now is the safest the U.S.-Mexican border has ever been. Border Patrol caught 12,000 people trying to cross illegally in this sector last year. In 2005, it was 120,000. U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Alan Burson says that's an obvious success.
We've actually seen a strengthening of borders in ways that were unimaginable before 9/11.
Here in El Paso, twice as many agents patrol the border, while X-ray machines and fingerprint readers screen major crossings. But back on the outskirts of Fort Hancock, nothing but surveillance cameras stand between Mexico and George Brenzovich's yard.
So this corridor is a passage for major travels of the drugs throughout this country.
Would you call that terrorism?
Sure, it's terrorism.
It's not the kind that stops you in your tracks, as 9/11 did a decade ago. But the Americans living in almost America say it is the kind that makes you look over your shoulder. In Fort Hancock, Heidi Zhou-Castro, YNN.
Being diagnosed with breast cancer today does not mean the same thing as it did 10 years ago. Survival rates have shot up thanks to research that's deciphering the mysteries of the disease and conquering them. Now a cure and possibly even a vaccine is just around the corner.
It's the news Marie Carmel has been hanging on to hear. She's among the 3 women who founded this support group for stage 4 breast cancer survivors. That was 9 years ago.
I'm the last one standing.
Every woman here has cancer that's spread to other parts of her body. Treatment is what keeps them alive.
Between us, we've taken just about everything in the stage 4 breast cancer medicine chest.
Full of drugs that can shrink tumors, but that can also have potentially fatal side effects.
My husband finally had to sign papers for no more resuscitations, that I had already been resuscitated so many times.
Seeing that as a young grad student made Dr. Alexander Asea adopt a mission.
To start looking for a cure, a non-toxic cure.
Now, as the chief of investigative pathology at Temple Scott and White Hospital, he may have found just that. Dr. Asea's lab is developing a new drug called Nampiva. It's designed to have less side effects because it leaves normal cells alone, but it's made breast cancer cells in mice disappear in 25 days.
And here are the breast cancer cells.
Even more promising is the drug's ability to teach the animals' bodies to remember the cancer and, in effect, become immune to it.
We've tried to inject the mice with the same kind of tumor, no tumor growth.
Dr. Asea says he dreams of not only making Nampiva available to all breast cancer patients, but to turn it into a vaccine. But significant hurdles still stand in the way. The drug's yet to be tested on humans, and to afford that, the lab still has to raise money.
And then we would probably pop the champagne.
This circle would certainly celebrate. Marie Carmel says saying farewell to 30 members is already enough.
Everything is supposed to be bigger in Texas. That is, unless it's the world's smallest Catholic church. In a search for all things uniquely Texan, YNN's Russell Wild takes us inside a church that proves big things can come in small packages. Helicopters will help some Formula One race fans avoid road traffic as they go to and from the track. As we saw a couple of weeks ago at Silverstone outside of London, race day traffic can quickly back up. YNN crews traveled to London along with city leaders to see how these events affected metropolitan area similar to Austin. And our own Jeff Stensland saw that Silverstone road traffic firsthand. He joins us from Austin Executive Airport. Jeff, so where you're at now is where some of those helicopters may be taking off from? The term gentrification means different things to different people. And as YNN's Jess Mitchell found out, it's at the center of big changes in East Austin. Our East Side Story series continues with a look at how neighbors have labeled, or chosen not to label, change. A government safety panel says BP missed important safety issues leading up to the 2010 oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. The U.S. Chemical Safety Board says that the oil and gas company focused too much on smaller worker safety details instead of bigger, more systematic hazards. The board also says BP wasn't as strict on safety when drilling rigs involved other companies that they'd hired. An explosion on the Deepwater Horizon killed 11 workers in April of 2010. BP had the lease on that well, but another company owned and operated the rig. Investigators say that contractor-owner split made a difference in major accident prevention. City leaders aren't the only ones preparing for November's U.S. Grand Prix in Austin. Would-be entrepreneurs also have their eye on the race and the potential profits that could pour in. It was a similar story when we checked out the recent British Grand Prix in England. Some homeowners near that racetrack try to turn a quick profit. Some use their land for parking or hotels, and one Brit we found actually converted his backyard into a makeshift bar and grill, all thanks to foot traffic. A juvenile corrections guard is accused of helping 3 teens escape from the McLennan County State Juvenile Correction Facility in the town of Mart. Investigators say 39-year-old Veronica Shea McCoy knew there was a problem with the perimeter fence, but never reported it. Then, July 14th, she was supervising the teens when one tampered with the fence. The trio fled the next day, but were caught several hours later about 2 miles away. McCoy is charged with facilitating escape. She was suspended without pay and has since resigned. The teens face escape charges.
I want to first introduce you to our 2 candidates attending our forum. We have incumbent Austin Mayor Lee Leffingwell, and we have political activist Clay Defoe. We also did extend an invitation to Bridget Shea, who confirmed she would be here, but unfortunately she has not appeared. However, according to the other study, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to bring up the other study that Jeff was citing actually found that the percentage of people who are low income in Austin is above the statewide average. How would you respond to that?
Voting for the primary election runoff started Monday. Through Friday, you can cast a Republican or Democratic ballot at any polling location, but expect one big change. Due to budget cuts, Travis County Clerk Dana DeBevoise says the hours at early voting polling locations will be scaled back 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Only the main site at the Travis County Office Complex on Airport Boulevard will be open for voting the usual 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Turnout for the runoff is expected to be very low. It's up to the campaigns to get their voters back out to the polls. Monday morning, Republican Senate runoff candidate David Dewhurst kicked it off, casting his ballot in South Austin.
A lot of people are gone.
If you didn't vote in the primary, you're open to choose a Republican or Democratic ballot. Otherwise, you'll have to vote the same party as you did the first round. Online, we have a link to voting locations across Central Texas. Visit us at YNN.com. A year ago, he was an unknown, but that was before he led the Lake Travis football team to its 5th straight state championship last fall. Now Baker Mayfield is squarely in the spotlight. Mike Berman has a story in our Athlete of the Week. Race cars won't be the only thing making noise at the new Formula One track in southeast Travis County. Top-notch musicians and entertainers will also be performing there. Circuit of the Americas and Live Nation are teaming up to create a new amphitheater. They made the announcement Monday morning. The Tower Amphitheater will be located at the base of the track's signature observation tower. Officials say the open-air theater will attract top recording artists and feature state-of-the-art technology. They say they researched other theaters around the country, looking at ways to make tower amphitheaters stand out. The power to protect your property versus the power of pipeline companies to force you to sell. It's a big Texas issue that's once again in question. YNN's Karina Kling joins us now from the Capitol, where a hearing on that subject took place today. Karina, is it looking like another big issue this next session?